There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with another 10 books tag, the Scribd version, in which I am going to tell you there's a long, fascinating history behind the 10 books tag, which I created back in the prehistoric age. You can read the show notes for that. Let's just go right into the Scribd version, in which I tell you the last 10 books that I added to my library on Scribd. If you don't know what Scribd is, you should. It's a great kind of Netflix for book nerds thing. Check it out. And because this is my tag, I'm not going to limit myself to 10 books. I'm going to do maybe 12. Woohoo! The first one, and this is going from most recent to least, and I'm skipping over books that I'm currently reading or have already finished reading. I'm just going to list the books that are on my Scribd TBR. And the first one is the memoir How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones. And was it just published? Maybe it was, because I listened to the interview with him on Fresh Air on NPR podcast the other day, and I didn't think I needed or wanted to read this book, but the interview was so compelling that I do. And then just today I saw Robert over at Barter Hordes recommended it extremely highly. By the way, I'm filming this video on November 9th. You probably won't see it for weeks. It's not time sensitive and, whatever. The audiobook is on here, and he has done the audio narration about being a gay black man growing up in the South. Eric Carl Anderson and I just the other day had a fun and lively Twitter chat about the Norwegian author Hanne Ørstavik. Her novel, which came out a couple of years ago called Love, Eric just read, but I read back when it was published. There's a review on my channel. I'll put a link in the show notes, and he and I were talking about it. And that made me check, and yes, there is one other novella by Ørstavik on Scribd, and that's called The Blue Room, translated from the Norwegian by Deborah Dawkin. I can't remember who translated the one that I read, which I think was from a different publisher, but I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was a dark story. I thought it was fabulous. And this one, I think it was published earlier, 2014. It's about a young woman in her 20s, still living in a home with her mother, but she finally falls in love and leaves home. Oh my. She and her boyfriend are planning a trip to America, but the morning of her departure, she finds that her door is locked. Her bedroom door is locked from the outside, and the story goes from there. All right. 176 pages. I have to admit that I have several books about the British royal family saved here, and I'm only going to give you one as a sample of all the others, and that's one that I just found last night, I think, about the Hanoverians. It's called The Strangest Family, The Private Lives of George III, Queen Charlotte, and the Hanoverians. I am reading a biography of one of that king and queen's granddaughters, Princess Mary Adelaide, the great-grandmother of the current Queen Elizabeth. Are you still with me? And the Hanoverian, the George III and Queen Charlotte had like 15 kids, and all of those kids that lived to adulthood were crazy. So this is a 700-page biography of their private lives. I can't wait. Oh, I see it's also on Scribd as an audiobook. Did I say who the author is? Janice Hadlow. And here is a novel that I have no idea why I saved it, but I'm probably, when that happens, it's usually because I just saw something on somebody's Twitter feed and looked it up. It's called The Words Between Us by Erin Bartels. And Erin Bartels is a Michigan novelist. Sounds like this is her second novel. And it is about a woman who spent most of her life under an assumed name running from her family's ignominious past. And that is also on Scribd in both audio and ebook format. Mark Nash, in his recent wrap-up or Friday Reads, talked about a Dave Eggers novel, The Parade, and he talked about it in a way that it's the first time I've been interested in trying a Dave Eggers novel since I read his, I think it was his debut, what's it called? My Heart is Barely Breaking. The first one about his parents, was it a memoir or a novel? about his parents both dying when he was like a teenager, both of cancer. And a powerful story. Didn't really like it though, and haven't heard much about him since then. That made me want to try another one, but Mark kind of sold me on this one. Oh, this is an audiobook. It's set in an unnamed third world country, and it's about coming out of war and the two halves of the state that had, maybe it was a civil war, are being conjoined politically, and there is a new road being constructed within like 20 days or something by order of the president, because he wants to have a ceremony about the reunification of the country, and it's about all of the stuff around that. What I'm saying about it doesn't make it sound like a Sean book, but I definitely want to try it. Here is another one that I have no memory of why I added it, but it is called Shirts and Skins. Oh, it's a set of linked short stories by a Canadian gay writer. Oh, I kind of remember adding this. It's published in 2012. Shirts and Skins by Jeffrey Luscombe. Debut novel, linked short story cycle about a young man's coming out, coming of age, and coming to terms with his family and his fate. Set in Hamilton, Ontario. Yeah, I want to check that out. The next one is an Italian novel, translated by Elena Ferrante's translator, Anne Goldstein. This is called A Girl Returned by Donatella di Pietrantonio. Won Italy's most prestigious literary prize. Set in Abruzzo in central Italy, about mothers and daughters. I was drawn to the title of this one, and I think again it's by a gay author perhaps. It's called We Love Anderson Cooper. Short stories by R.L. Mazies. And it's an audiobook. I don't know if the author is... Let's find out. It's brand new, published July of 2019. Oh, it's a woman. She was born in Queens, New York, lives in Colorado now, and some of these stories have gay content, others maybe not. And now for something completely different. I think I saw something on the news about Armenia and the Armenian massacre. This whole bugaboo. Turkey, still 100 plus years later, has just got their shirt in a knot about not admitting that they slaughtered half the people in a country. It's ridiculous. So I thought, never heard of any fiction coming from that part of the world, and I immediately found this tome, bigger than Duck's Newburyport, 1,129 pages. It's called The 40 Days of Musa Dag by Franz Werfel, published in 1933, drawing the world's attention to the Armenian genocide. It's a novel. The story of how the people of several Armenian villages chose not to obey Turkey's deportation order, and then what befell them in 1915. Wow. Translated by Jeffrey Dunlap, but the translation has been revised by James Radell, and I think it's restored some of the text that was left out of the English translation because it was a Book of the Month Club pick, and this is the full meal deal. I don't know. I'm always attracted to tomes, and then it takes me forever to schedule them, but I want to read something, some fiction about this, so why not go for the gusto? I believe it was Anne who recently told me she was reading a short Trollope novel, but I may have that mixed up. But this is Lady Anna. It's 200 pages on ebook. Haha! I have read it since I filmed this video weeks ago, and it's more like 400 pages, something like that, and it wasn't very good. But I kept this part of the video in just because. I love Trollope usually, but I didn't get along with Phineas Finn, and I bailed. So I think I'm going to get to Lady Anna on ebook soon. And I think that was 10, so I'm going to do 2 more, but whatever the count is, it doesn't matter, but I think I've got it organized in my brain, perhaps. An anthology of fiction by Korean women, The Future of Silence. Fiction by Korean women. Translated and edited by Bruce and Ju-Chan Fulton. I haven't read very much Korean fiction, and when I came across this, I thought, yes, this will help rectify that situation. No, I may end up with 13, it doesn't matter, but here is another Welsh novel that Leah told me she picked up, and I checked, and sure enough, it's on Scribd here in ebook. Scribd has a fantastic collection of Welsh literature on ebook. It's amazing. Far better than their collection of Canadian literature. And this is called Dew on the Grass by Eileanid Lewis. Oh, and she's a female. Oh, good. I couldn't even tell from that name whether it was a man or a woman. She was born in 1900 and died in 1979. Oh, okay, I'm betraying my prejudice. Now that I know it's written by a female writer, I'm that much more interested. And finally, a novel. I knew the writer's name and that's about it, but this novel was brought to my attention by a subscriber, and I'm very appreciative because it sounds right up my alley. It would either fit for Gone with the Book or Victober because it was published in 1900, and it is called Red Pottage. Red Pottage. How do you pronounce that word? Pottage? I don't even know what it means.
Pottage.
Pottage, okay, and what does it mean? It's the carrying of a boat on land. A boat or its cargo between two navigable waters. And this...
Pottage.
Oh, seriously. Thank you. Now I need to know how to pronounce the writer's name because it is a long and I think challenging to pronounce name.
Chumley. Chumley.
Okay, that one has 2 thumbs up and 4 thumbs down, so...
The Lord Great Chamberlain is the Marquess of Chumley, who I mentioned earlier.
Well, that sounds like Chumley to me, so I'm going to go with it. Somebody can correct me, but the author is Mary Chumley. But look at the spelling. Woo! Mary Chumley was born in 1859 and died in 1925. British novelist. And her best-selling novel was Red Pottage, which satirized religious hypocrisy and the narrowness of country life. I'm sold. It was adapted as a silent film in 1918. All right. And it is 500 pages in ebook format, so don't know when I'll get to it, but those are the last dozen or so books that I have added to my Scribd library. If you want to do this tag and you have Scribd or something else like Kindle, or you just have 10 books or a dozen books on your shelf that you want to talk about randomly, please consider yourself tagged. Thanks for watching.